Dear students, good evening. Welcome to La Excellence Brain Buzz program. Today's topic which I am going to discuss to you is about Higher Education Commission of India. You know, the government proposed to replace University Grants Commission with a Higher Education Commission. Now, the stated objectives of the government are to improve access, quality, and to an extent, choice to the students. Are these objectives really meant? Or the proposed scheme is meeting these glorified objectives in higher education? So, let me pose certain questions to you. Is this institution is really autonomous? And the second thing, is higher education is getting commercialized? And finally, the overlapping that is existing among the existing institutions, higher education regulatory institutions, can we do away with that? So let me put this in perspective. Today, higher education policy is in the domain of Human Resources Ministry. And then regulation, we have multiple regulatory institutions whose responsibilities are also overlapping with many of the professional bodies, either medical council, bar council, dental council, etc. And we have University Grants Commission, AICTE. These are all various regulatory bodies. And we have accreditation bodies, National Accreditation and Assessment Council. It means this is highly fragmented and there are many gaps. There are many places where regulatory exercise is getting overlapped. Now the government purpose appears to be this. Let's move from this towards one strong regulatory institution for all the higher education. This actually was proposed by Yashpal Committee. Yashpal Committee wanted to have one single regulator for research, university, and technical institutions. And he emphasizes that it brings in greater coordination between the institutions. But if we see, today the government is talking about taking away NAC into Higher Education Commission, National Accreditation and Assessment Council. And the second, many of AICTE is expected to be done away with very soon. So, to an extent, the government is trying to do away with this overlapping. Now, the second part is UGC. It was built on the philosophy of non-interference. It means the politics of the day shall not interfere with the academic exercise. Let the universities determine their course and UGC monitor them. But today, the proposed Higher Education Commission enjoys this autonomy. This is what is the question. Let me explain to you about the composition. The UGC Act has clearly stated that government officials shall not be members of the commission, or at least they cannot be the chairman or vice chairman of the commission. But today, there is no such a restriction with regard to Higher Education Commission. And second, the teachers, composition of the teachers in the commission is reduced to 2. So though the size of the commission is increased to 12, the composition is reduced to 2. It means there is a lot of scope to bureaucratize this structure with the government officials. Obviously, when retired government officials or serving government officials fill this institution, this becomes an extension of the bureaucracy. And second aspect, there will be a secretary to the commission who will be a joint secretary level officer. And every decision of the commission need to be endorsed by this joint secretary. Without his signature, no commission activity will move forward. Obviously, he is going to be a career bureaucrat. So, in this bureaucratization, can we really protect the autonomy of this institution? That is the bigger question. And second is, how higher educational institutions are going to be measured for their performance. This bill talks about a lot about quantification. One important thing among this is graded merit. It is to what extent it is financially independent and to what extent it is able to ensure the employability of its graduates. Based on this, funds are going to be given to these higher educational institutions. And second, the funds which previously allocated by UGC, these are no more allocated by the Higher Education Commission. Now it is the responsibility of the Human Resources Ministry. It means that the most important power of any organization is the financial power. When an organization is deprived of that, obviously it is going to have a less status and voice for its actions. And the next is higher educational institutions, so they will be created autonomy based on their financial independence. Then what they will do? They will cut down on non-profitable courses. Now if you come to southern India, what is happening is this. History, many of the social sciences are seeing a slow death. If you go to any university, the number of students enrolling in these courses is coming down. It does not mean these are non-essential areas. We need to ensure their existence and continuity. And the state subsidy helps over here. But when we are performing based on their earnings, the universities, colleges likes to drop these programs, which is not good for academics, not good for the evolution of education in India. And third is, the government wants to evaluate the universities based on the learning outcomes. Then, what is learning outcome? How it is measured? Here comes the question of choice-based credit systems. So, if we have to introduce this system, we have to bring in uniform curriculum, uniform standards across the universities. But how the university structure has come into existence in India? Let me put it this way. Hyderabad Central University. So when it was made, it is supposed to act in that local context. So it means universities are being put in the context of India's diversity. When today, this commission, when it is talking about common standards across the universities, obviously this is trying to reduce university into certain coaching shops that can lead to mass production. Let us also put this from fees dimension. So I can say clearly there is an incentive towards the commercialization of education. UGC Act has clearly spoke about how the fees have to be decided by the universities. But Higher Education Commission can just advise the government. It cannot play an active role in determining the fees. So, the universities tomorrow, they get a chance to determine independently their fees so that they can gain autonomy by becoming economically independent. So here, when this happens, the state subsidy model which is in higher education today will slowly transform itself into loan assistance model. Any child who wants to study, he has to take the loan and then he has to repay tomorrow once he gets employed. This is mostly an American system. Now if you go to European system, European universities are public funded. So again, a clear bend towards commercialization is visible. This is what actually suggested by National Knowledge Commission. Now, are the capacities of higher education are sufficient to monitor or to take up the responsibilities given to it? Now there is one provision. Annually, they have to inspect, visit, evaluate various universities. I think today 786 or 787 universities are there as per UGC website. Now can it go everywhere and monitor all these things? Is this practically possible? So these are the questions that still remain. And now let us see this question itself from the federalism dimension. Now there are many universities which are established by the states or state legislature acts. Now there is an autonomous body, a statutory body, UGC. It is provided for the benefits or grants to those universities. And the states are also happy about that. Now, as the responsibility to provide the grants shifts towards the HRD ministry, don't you think it has greater leverage over the states? And then, is this in the spirit of cooperative federalism? And with regard to interference, for this HECI, Higher Education Commission, an advisory body is created. And this advisory body is chaired by none other than the Minister for HRD. So is that not outright government involvement? So these are the questions that still remain. Now, based on these questions, you can form a perspective. In a nutshell, I have divided this debate into three things. The first is, Higher Education Commission, is it truly autonomous? And the second question I asked to myself is this Higher Education Commission is going to be a gatekeeper for marketization of higher education in India? The third question is, can it reach its objectives such as access to maintain quality, etc.? Or is it trying to convert higher education into a uniform model or standardized based on some quantifiable criteria in the name of evaluation, competition, etc.? And finally, my question is this law or is this bill in the spirit of so-called federalism? So these are the questions which I posed for myself. You can think on to this. Now, is UGC a holy cow? No, it has its own weaknesses. But I am trying to explain you it from the perspective of the Higher Education Commission, why it has to be a apolitical matter, why it has to be funded by the state. Now, if you take most of the Scandinavian countries, higher education is state-funded initiative. That's how the value is created. That's how the research is promoted. When universities have to fund that independently through the fees paid by the students, obviously they spend more on money-generating activities. The money-generating activities will be popular courses. Then what about the innovation? No one likes to go for a risk. No one likes to spend on research because the benefits of it takes long time. So this is what my thing. Just you think on this. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.